Hi, this is on Imagination with my weird shit. And we talk about whatever the fuck the science is, which I think we've gotten it down to mythos. Mythos is the ancient Greek word for word or story. Really, that's all this is, word and story. And I just composed a storyboard. I love doing storyboards. Storyboards are a really beautiful, summarized simplification of everything. And I just finished it this morning, and it was just like this massive simplification of, okay, here we go. This is what this is. And it's life. It's literally the story of life. There's no other word for this. I believe this is it, the story of life. And that would be what mythos is. I finally wrote it all down, and it's been this massive feeling of, oh, all right, I can close that chapter now and just sit for a while. And I can see where there's still, no, I'm good. I'm good. There's definitely parts that need to be worked on, but to enhance it, not to correct anything. And it's just this beautiful thing. It's comprehension. It's literally the story of life. And life, natural life. It's the story of natural life. And it's a dichotomy between natural and unnatural. That's really a good summation of this, the dichotomy of natural and not natural. And it's we think nature is natural, and it's really not. Natural is it's we project our natural need or pursuit onto nature. But when you really understand what nature is and you've integrated it, it's with you always. So the desire to run to the ocean or the desire to escape society and go to the forest is gone. And the reason why is because you've integrated it. You've integrated nature into you. It's the integration of what is natural. Now, children are naturally born this way. We're naturally born with the integration of nature inside of us, but the unnatural society pulls it out of us until we are so separated with it that we can't function. And what we are doing is we are restoring that integrated nature back into us. The problem is, in order to do this, you have to know how to do integration into the self. And that is actually the process of learning naturally. That is nature's learning. So I broke all of this down into a storyboard. The link is in the video description, so you can just grab it there and take a look. But the feeling, once you have this comprehension, it's like, oh, it feels like I've been staring at one of those science magazines my whole life, where it's a blown up picture of God knows what. And you're just staring at that picture your whole life. And you finally get to this point where you can see the big picture. And it's like, oh, I was looking at a toothbrush. And it's just this, okay, I'm going to sit back now. But it's been, for me, it was 44 years of staring at this thing going, what am I looking at? And that's really the question I think I do believe we are all asking this is, what am I looking at? And it is the absence of comprehension. It's the absence of comprehension. And you can't understand what you're looking at until you have the 6 tools of communication. And that's it right there. You cannot understand what you're looking at. You cannot comprehend until you have the 6 tools of comprehension. And once you have the 6 tools of comprehension, you're good. You're good. The 6 tools of comprehension are music, art, story, word. Oh, I have to go back and look. Comprehension and science. Comprehension and science. And it's the 18 academic disciplines. The 18 academic disciplines are literally the tools for comprehension. And basically what happened was, and then there's the history of how did this happen? That's really what this comes down to, is there's mythos, the life story, and then there's a second story of how did we lose this? How did we lose mythos? And that's really it. So you have mythos, which is the first story. And then you have a second story, which is the anti-mythos. I'm going to call it the anti-mythos. And or the non-mythos. So you have these two stories, and the mythos is breathtaking. It's beautiful. It's the understanding of, I have to know my point of origin. What is your point of origin? Mother Nature is your point of origin. That's why she's the mother. It's the point of origin. She's the parent. And if you don't understand Mother Nature, then you can't know your point of origin. And this is where the past as it did happen is literally the truth. And once you understand the life code of how everything is naturally, it's suddenly this ability to just plug everything right in and go, oh, that makes sense. Okay. So the life code is Plato's point, disintegration, integration, Plato's point. And it's that on repeat. It's in everything. And when you start to recognize it, when you start to see it, the pattern is, you cannot unsee it. It's everywhere. And what you end up being able to do is you can see where it's not present. And when it's not present, it's a huge, oh, that's not natural. So suddenly it's this ability to sort out what is natural and what is unnatural. And once you start that pattern recognition between unnatural and natural, once you've defined natural, it's the sudden, oh, this is so easy. You just got to sort it out. So now you're sorting it out. So after you define it, you can sort it and organize it. And then after you organize it, you can purify it. And once you purify it, it's swag. Is that, let me look it up here. Swag. So swag, or is it, I want to say it's swag. So swag is a blacksmithing term that means impurities. I have another word stuck in my head. And I wonder if that's the word. No, that's not it. It's driving me crazy. What is it called? It's literally the impurities of blacksmithing. And I know it is swag, but when a blacksmith hammers something, it is because they are literally removing the impurities from it. This is a very old. And the flakes that come off is the impurities from the crucible, basically. I swear it was called, I swear it was called swag. Is it slag? Oh, it's slag, I believe. Okay, yeah, I believe it's slag. So I invented a word called schlag a while ago. And yes, okay, so slag. So I had the, okay, so it's slag. So slag is the impurities of, yeah, that's it exactly. It's the impurities of the metal. So you have iron, but you've put it inside a crucible. You're going to get all this carbon and all this other stuff that goes inside the metal. And as you, I don't know if carbon is the right word. I'll have to take a look at the chemistry of it. But when you hammer it, it literally, well, dirt, definitely soil. So let's say you take gold, raw gold, and you put it inside a crucible. Now you're going to melt down that crucible. Now, when you're melting down the crucible, the gold and the dirt, the soil and all the schmutz that's in the dirt is going to go inside the crucible as well. So when you start to forge the gold and you start to shape it and bend it, you have to hammer it out. The reason why you're hammering it is because you're literally using pressure to squeeze out the impurities that isn't gold. And the more you can purify this, that's the process, is the smithing process. And the less you can do this, the best way to do it is to cook it off. But you have to get your heat to a certain point. You really need your heat at a certain point. So you have to make sure that your oven or your furnace point is a certain level in order to remove those impurities. If you don't, you're going to have a lot more hammering to do. So you can either burn it off or cook it off, or you're going to have to pound it out. So up until a certain point, it was not possible to get a furnace a certain degree. They could only get their furnaces so hot. It wasn't until they managed to break through in chemistry and they were able to increase the temperature of their ovens. When they increased the temperature of their ovens, well, of the furnaces, it allowed them to cook out even more impurities. So what we ended up seeing was this massive quality increase in swords and in swords, in all metallurgy, because we saw this breathtaking purity because we were able to cook off more slag inside. So when we first started doing blacksmithing, it was very impure. Now, this meant rust could get in, it could oxidize, it could rot. And this is why weaponry broke. It was fragile, it was frail, it shattered. It's because these impurities were in there. So when we increased the heat of the furnace, it allowed for a stronger, a purer metal. So the strength of the metal is two factors. One is literally what is the strength of the metal. Now you're looking in the atomic weight of the metal, but you're also looking at the purity of the metal. If it's an impure metal, it's going to break no matter what. Now, I cannot remember his name. He is literally a renowned blacksmith, a swordsman, who produced over 200, about 500 swords over 200 years in Norway, Scandinavia, around the 700s. And the swords, Ulfbert, his name was Ulfbert. Ulfbert was a Scandinavian smith who, it's not possible what he did, but he did it. So I hypothesize that he had the 12 ethics. I hypothesize that he had Solomon's wisdom because he could get his furnaces at a substantially higher degree than everybody else. Literally 500 years before everybody else. He was able to get his furnaces 500 degrees hotter than everybody else. And as a result, he was able to create over 200 swords that are inexplainable. Well, it's explainable. The only explanation is he had the chemistry to get his furnaces hotter than everybody else. So he was able to purify his metal. As a result, the Ulfbert blades are unbreakable. They are formidable. And to get an Ulfbert blade it was literally 500 years ahead of its time. And when you look at the chemistry of how he did it, there's only one explanation. He got his furnaces that hot. So now it's like, okay, how did he get his furnaces that hot? He had access to knowledge that was beyond that region, King Solomon's knowledge. And it was known that King Solomon's knowledge was available in Ireland, which is the Vikings were all over the place. They had trade routes going. This was a massive Viking Ireland region. So it's quite probable, it's quite likely that this Ulfbert was able to get this information from King Solomon's information from the Vikings Druids and then bring it over into Scandinavia, which is why he was able to produce these swords for 500 years ahead of his time. So when you are looking at purity and the purification of something, you are literally defining it and then you're sorting it and then you're purifying it. This process is literally integration. It's truly integration. You are removing all impurities from it. And when you are removing impurities, you're looking at what is natural and what is not natural. And when we are looking at, I just need a minute. I had a massive growing period in in July. All of July was this massive growth period for me. And I got to July 21st and it hit me and okay, I'm growing. I went into my cave. I did some mental shadow work and I emerged mean. I had to go through this mean stage. And then after that, I found my soul. There's just no other word for it. I found my soul. And every day I wake up and it's like this beam of light that's just Fibonacci sequence growing. It's like, okay, I started off with 1, now it's 2, now it's 4, now it's 8, now it's 16, now it's 32. And I'm going, yes, now it's 64. So which means tomorrow it's going to be like 144. So, well, that's not the right math. 168, I think. I have to sit down and do the math. I don't know. So I am just so excited. So excited. And it's this massive, like, I can feel the growth. I can feel I'm growing. I can literally feel my growth. And it's a beautiful, beautiful, oh, I know where I am. I know where I'm at. I'm in the disintegration stage of my own growth. Wow, this feels fantastic. This feels fantastic. It's extraordinary. And as you disintegrate your own knowledge in your own comprehension of the self, it really opens you up to understand more of yourself in depth. And we can only ever know who we are in relativity to something. And this is vital. You must know who you are in relativity to something. And this is where the best way I can explain this to you is look at, I'm going to do something called multi-genre learning. Multi-genre learning is when I take whatever the hell I need to take, pull it together, and just hand it to you and say, this is what you need to learn. And this is where I really want to hand you Empty Child and the Dr. Dances from Doctor Who. The Empty Child and Dr. Dances is a fantastic example. There's 2 ways you can take the show. The first one is the literal mother and, well, are you my mummy? And this child walking around with, are you my mummy? But then there's the big picture. And the big picture is explained by the doctor in the show, Dr. Dances. So look for the second meaning. Look for the second meaning. Look for the metaphor. So there's always going to be the metaphorical meaning and the literal meaning. Now, literal and metaphorical mean something completely different in the Asha journey, in this realm of comprehension. And metaphorical means what is literal, it would be the moral of the story, and metaphorical is the story itself. That's really what this comes down to. The metaphor is the story part. The literal is the moral of the story. It's the summation of the story so that you can fully comprehend it. And both of these things are in relativity to the point. The point. Now, the point is composed of pure truth. It is the truth. The point is truth. And it's where you comprehend everything. So when you have comprehension, you have truth, and that is the point. And there's 2 ways you can translate the point so that you can understand it. You have to first put it through the disintegration process, which is the metaphorical story of it, which is the disintegration. And then you have the moral or the summation, which is the integration back into Plato's point. Now you have comprehension. So you start off with, I'm going to tell you a story. So story is Plato's point. And then you disintegrate the story, and that is the metaphorical process. And then after you break it down into this is the full disintegration, then you summarize it back into integration with, and the moral of the story is the end. The end is back to Plato's point, which is the story. And this process, now you understand. So story and the moral of the story is literally the 2 connectors, the conduits that get you from, we have something to learn, now you understand. And that's it right there. You have something to learn, and now you understand. And this process is repeated in literally everything we do. This is the life code. This is life itself. It's learning. And once you start to understand the relativity to everything, everything makes sense. The problem is you have to define the point. Once you define the point and you understand truth and relativity to the point, then you're going to be able to understand the self, because the self is literally the creation of the point. The point is the parent. And now we're back to the empty child with Doctor Who. So after you read what I have, let me actually go there now. After you read this particular storyboard, the assignment to follow it is going to be watch Empty Child. Really, that's it. It's assignment. TV done. And that's it. You're going to want to watch Doctor Who, The Empty Child, and it's a 2-part episode. So you want The Empty Child and The Doctor Dances. And that's it. You're going to want to watch that. That is season 1 with Eccleston. Yeah, let me go ahead and put that in here. And that is season 1 with Eccleston. I want to say it's 2009. I really want to say it's 2009. I cannot spell his name. There we go. So that would be your assignment after you do the storyboard. Watch this assignment, and that allows you to put into perspective the relativity of like the big picture, what it really is. After that's where you step into triadic healing. That's where we start disintegrating it. Disintegration, then after you have Mythos, the first story, you really need to understand what happened. Like, why do we need education? Why do we need to learn? And that's where the second story begins. The second story is, if you don't know the first story, then the second story occurs. And that's it. To not know the first story is to have the second. It's the catastrophe. Really, that's the best word for it. It's the catastrophe of not knowing. And once you have the catastrophe of not knowing, you'll understand, oh, this is like really important. Yeah, because this is what happens when it gets out of hand. And basically what happened was, when this information became known to us, it was about 1,000 years ago. No, I'm sorry, I misspoke. It was about 3,000 years ago. It was 1,000 BCE that we first obtained this knowledge. And in 1,000 years, this knowledge took things on such a level. It was very powerful. I was able to track this knowledge to Atlantis. And I'm going to explain it this way. This is all documented. It's all historical. It's all cited. This is what happened. 1,000 BC, King Solomon asked for wisdom. He got the wisdom. He developed it. He turned it into a school. The people who attended his school became, well, the followers of Solomon. It really didn't have a name. Eventually, about 500 BCE, a man by the name of Zoroaster became the greatest Solomon student ever. And he founded Zoroastrian. His name was also Zarathustra. And he took this knowledge, maxed it out. Now, this knowledge continued to expand through all of old Persia. And it created the Achaemenid Empire. And Zoroaster taught Pythagoras directly. Pythagoras then taught Plato, who taught Aristotle and me. Aristotle took his information and he continued. Now, here's the problem. Around the time that Pythagoras was taking on this information, and they built ancient Greek with this knowledge. Ancient Greece was built with this knowledge. So was Persia. So was the Achaemenid Empire. So you had the Achaemenid Empire, you had Old Persia, you had ancient Greek, all of it flourished. From that, you ended up with Christianity, you ended up with Buddhism, Muslim, Hinduism. All religions came from this. And it spread. According to Plato, Atlantis was an island navy ship. It was literally an island that was so vast that it could be steered, and it was steered. It was a ship that was an island, and it attacked the Persian Empire. Now, when you look at how wise and where these people took this knowledge, they maxed it out. And when they maxed it out, well, these people were mages, literally magi, wise men. They were wizards, which literally means philosopher and sage. These people were beyond any kind of knowledge and comprehension that we have any understanding of today. They were like 4 levels beyond biology. And Atlantis got it in its great big brain to attack these people. I hypothesized they were mages and it scared the shit out of everybody. So Atlantis attacked them. They sank all of Atlantis. They sank the ship, the island ship. That is how powerful these people were. I hypothesized that that event scared the shit out of Rome so much that they decided, you're too powerful, let's take you down. And that is when they killed Socrates, which began an 800-year-long campaign of let's destroy all of the magic knowledge, which is why by 380 CE, it was completely gone and wiped out. 100 years later, we were in the Dark Ages. And if you look at the progression of religion, if you look at the progression of history, what is ironically absent is this massive, unspoken, don't let the witches have their magic. And we see this theme reoccurring for 2,000 years, literally from 380 CE, or the seeking of the Atlantis, the killing of Socrates, 380 CE, all the way up to now. There's this constant, don't let the witches have their magic. And magic is on the other side of science. It's the most advanced science. And there's a lot happening in science right now. I follow that world. That's my world. So if you're watching the science world, you're watching a lot of weird shit happen. Like science is on the pre-magic edge. Pre-magic. They just found a new element pulled from an alchemy lab. They found an old alchemy lab and they found a new element. They're finding locations and geography they've never seen before. They're finding, it's at a point where they're finding new animals. So we're at a point where we are at the pre-magic stage. And that's really what's going on as magic is returning to the world. But there's a lot of non-magic believers. And as a result, they're resisting, they're fighting it. It's over there. And there's a process. This is a process. And what we are tapping back into is literally Solomon's wisdom and Zoroastrian. Now, they already have the jump on everybody. Oh, good God, do they? This is ancient wisdom. There's just no other word for it. It's ancient wisdom. I am a wisdom archaeologist. I'm a knowledge and an education archaeologist. My whole life is just find knowledge and restore it. That's all I do. So when I dabbled, when I dug deep into all of this, I pulled it from everywhere. And you get to a point where you can start to logically weave everything and purify it. And logic is the purification of truth. That is exactly what logic is, the purification of truth. And once it's all complete, it condenses itself down into this beautiful breath, pneumo, mythos. And at that point, you know who you are, because now you have truth defined. So now you have pure nature. Now you can compare yourself to nature and go, oh, this is who I am. Now I know who I am. You have the mother parent defined. So now you know who you are. And after that, there's this feeling of, I want to see what we can do. It's really a feeling of, I want to see what I can do. And It's the point where you stand into your full power. Oh, but you're not at full power. You're just at comprehension. It's like, oh, I know what I am. I know who I am. Let's see what I can do. There's no other words. It's let's see what I can do. It's such and now I'm looking at the Olympics going, now that makes sense. No, does that make sense? Let's see what I can do. And it's this it's really this triumphant point of once you get, and this is the first milestone. This is just the first milestone. When you get to pure truth with Rata and you know who you are, it's immediately, all right, now I know who I am. Let's see what I can do. And I'm just sitting here eager, very, very eager, very, very eager. And it's this overwhelming desire to push myself as far out as I can go. I have no idea where this is going to take me, but it is an overwhelming passion of just eagerness and excitement. And I can feel it all just on the cusp. And I've decided to go ahead with math, and I started it yesterday. Well, I've been working on it, but I've decided to just go all out and all right, I'm just doing it. I cannot proceed further without calculus. I have to have calculus for where I'm going. So I have to spend a lot of time literally absorbing all the mathematics. And it's funny because, well, I found something. I was doing a math problem and I was following PEMDAS, and I'm going, okay, according to the order of operations, A, B, C should be the case. And I'm still going, the math is wrong. And I double checked it, and the calculator did it properly, but I didn't. And I'm going, so now I'm questioning how I was taught to add. That's really what I'm doing. I'm questioning how I was taught to add. Because if you were taught to add properly, you should have 100% consistent accuracy. Did you know that? If you are taught how to add properly, you should be walking away with 100% consistency. If you are walking away without 100% consistency, you're not adding properly. And now I'm going, I'm not walking away. In fact, most times when I add, I can't even add. And I'll sit there and do the math over and over exactly as I was taught. And I never come up with the right answer. So then I sat down and I punched it into the computer, the calculator, and they get the right answer. And I'm going, I can't add. I was not taught how to add properly. So now I have to reverse engineer adding until I can find the one that gets you the right answer 100% of the time. And I did that addition about 8 different times. And I kept coming up with different answers every single time. And I'm going, I don't know how to add. I know how to integrate, but I don't know how to add, apparently. And you are supposed to be walking away with 100%. Yeah, you are supposed to be walking away with 100%. It's fractions, by the way. I have to clarify. It's fractions. It's adding fractions. I don't believe my teachers taught me how to add fractions properly, which explains why I struggle with math a lot. As soon as I get into fractions, I can't add them properly. And I believe it's because they taught me the wrong way to add. Now, I know there's like 4 or 5 different ways you can add. No, there's not. Math would never do that. That is human error all over the place. You guys were not Euclid. You did not study with Euclid. You did not have King Solomon's knowledge. You found books and you guessed. You, as in the Roman Empire. They would not know how to add. And it's just been passed down generation to generation. Now, at some point, mathematicians figured this out and they corrected it, and they have a different way of adding. So I need to learn how to add. I'm just going to ask my mathematician friend, because he would know how to do it very, very easily. So yeah, this is a primitive. This is a primitive request. how do you add fractions? No, not fractions, decimals. I believe my teachers, and I'm going to use like teachers, taught me improperly because the answers I get are almost always less than 20% correct. Yeah, I'm certain. I believe. No, it's Arabic. Oh! I really hate prejudice. They read right to left. Not left to right, which means they would have added right to left. And they are so prejudiced that they turned it around left to right. Which explains why the new mathematics does add it left to right or right to left. It was back in the 90s, I believe it was, that they came up with a new mathematics where they realized, oh, if we add this from right to left instead of left to right, it goes faster, it's easier. Well, yeah, it's Arabic. The Arabs, is that the right word for that? I don't know the right words. These were the people who did all of this. Mathematics, wisdom comes from the Middle East. Like all of it, it came from the Middle East. I'm seeing things in history, and there are things I don't want to say out loud. Not at all. But the storybooks don't lie. People do. And I can see very clearly where people tamper with documentation, where people change things, because that's when illogic just screams out. And that's when you start to see the unnatural code appear. And I'm looking at certain things and I'm seeing where there's unnatural code all over the place. And I'm looking at it going, that's not natural. And it's really pissing me off. And I'm looking at it going, those fucking assholes tampered with all of this. They're thieves. They're thieves. So I'm just going to call them thieves. And basically you had old Persia with this breathtaking knowledge. And let's just say it got the attention of thieves. And these thieves were really good at pretending to be friend and then completely destroying you. Narcissists. And then they changed everything. The problem is the more I study and the more I look at this, the more these thieves literally buried the truth with their prejudice and doctored everything to hide up what they did. And it's so painfully obvious at this point that I can't ignore it. I can't even continue without getting into this thieves. And they're just thieves. And I can see where everything was doctored. I can see where every story was changed. I can see all of it. And there's this other story. We're just going to call it Roman. And I know their fingerprint very, very well. So you've got the Romans and you've got the thieves. And at one point, the Roman and the thieves worked together. And I can see where they worked together. And then I can see where the two of these people did shit. And I could see where the thieves did X and Roman did Y. And then they cahooted. I can see it. And underneath all of their doctoring, I see old Persia that's pure. And I can see Solomon, which is pure. and I can see Pythagoras, which is pure, and I can see Zoroastrian, which is pure. And then I can start to see Hinduism, which is pure. I can see Ireland, which is pure, the Norse, which is pure, Buddhism, which looks like it was trying to revive what was lost, but it's pure. And I'm just looking over and over again, Solomon, Old Persia, Zoroastrian, Pythagoras, and they are all matching up. And the only thing that doesn't fit with this picture is the thieves and the Romans. And it's I'll be sitting here doing research, and then I'll hit something and I'll go, what the fuck? And it's immediately illogical, it's confusing, and I'm like, oh, no, that's doctrine shit. You know that moment in the 6th Harry Potter book when they go into the Pensieve over and over again, and they're watching all these memories, and then they go into Slughorn's memory, and it's confusing, it's blurred, and Harry's like, what was that? And Dumbledore says, that's a tampered memory. That is exactly what the history books look like when there's tampering. It's confusing, it's contradicting, there's multiple stories no, that's tampered with. When you have missing information, confusion, and multiple stories, that's tampering. Somebody's fucking up. When it's one story, pure, clear, and well documented, that's the truth. And that always shows up all over the place, over and over again on constant repeat. So you can find that theme that's natural. So when you start to notice the confusion, the multiple stories, the alterations, the inconsistent, oh no, that's a lie. That is pure lie. That's what that is. And it keeps coming back to this group of thieves. And I'm just like, and then I'm sitting here watching this group of thieves, and I'm going, you're a bunch of dirtbags. Like, they are thieves. And they conduct genocide while playing victim. And that's really it. On one hand, they're doing genocide, and on the other hand, they're crying victim. We call that hubris and vaunting combined. They are vaunting and their hubris combined. And I'm just like, no. And it's so apparent. It's like, it's so obvious. And I just can't touch it. I just, there it is. They're thieves, and I'm just going to leave that alone. So I'm now looking over at trying to weed out that. And there's multiple stories because these things are all over the place. The common denominators moved. The common denominators, absolutely, they're everywhere. You can see substantial evidence of them everywhere. So you can easily fill in the blanks, but there's no blanks. It's just, oh, there's the logical connection to this story. And when it clicks in, it makes logical sense, and it actually leads to the next truth. So you've got this beautiful logical flow into this bridge, and then you get the completed story. And it's like, and then because it integrates, you've got the completed DNA code. You've got the completed story code, because otherwise it wouldn't fit. Otherwise it wouldn't make sense. It's exactly like you're building a puzzle and the puzzle pieces don't match. And this is why puzzle science, this is puzzle science. This is puzzling. This is why you need puzzles as early, like puzzles for children all the way. This is why you need puzzles, is because it teaches you how to do pattern recognition. It teaches you how to do story ordering. It teaches you how to do mental diversification. And I cannot emphasize how much puzzles are mandatory in children. Like, absolutely. Of all the learning things you can give a child, a puzzle is it. So I've been able to track down these two groups, I was able to make all the connections and go, okay, all right, take a step back. And it was this sudden realization that, again, it's this natural versus unnatural. And basically, you can either participate in the unnatural, or I'm sorry, in the natural. And that is where you will get substantial growth. That is where you will get prosperity. That is where you will get abundance. And it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And then on this unnatural side, you have this thing just consuming. It's literally consumption. You're either growing or you have consumption. Now, it's all dichotomy. It's not black and white. It's a dichotomy. You can have, and this is it. Every person has to fight this fight inside of them. You've got growth and you've got consumption. And the more you are natural, the more into substantial prosperity, abundance, the more you grow. And the more unnatural, the more you consume. The fact that we're calling ourselves consumers is a huge red flag. We don't call ourselves growers. We call ourselves consumers. Like, that's the mindset. That right there is Roman mindset, Roman thief mindset. And it's making so much more sense. And the more I'm digging deeper into this old Persian and looking through their history, and I'm going to say it again, this is the story. This is it's not a religion. This is the thing that literally birthed all religion. Every single one of them came out of this stuff. This is the parent religion. And it wasn't a religion. It was wisdom, logic, truth. Solomon's wisdom. And he's the common denominator in all of this over and over again. So having this insight, having this understanding, condensing it down, okay, and then understanding your relativity to it. And I'm trying to explain what it's like where I'm at. Because you have Solomon's seal. Let's just call it Solomon's seal. And that is your pure truth. That is the truth with a capital T. And when you really break down what it is, it's literally Mother Nature's story. And then in comparison or in relativity to that, you have the self. Now you can look at Mother Nature and go, oh, that's my parent. Now I know who I have to be. So now you know who you are in relativity to the parent. And once you realize that your parent is Mother Nature, well, now you have someone you can, okay, now there it is. And then after that, you become the parent. It's the becoming of the parent. This is where I say, I'm a tree. And okay, this is the defined parent. I have become the parent, and there it is. This is the defined parent. It's the personification of the parent. And that is it right there. It's the personification of the parent. Now, there's a ratio inside of you. And the ratio is you've got the parent, but you're only going to be a combination of that parent. It's a combination you're looking for. And knowing your combination is you're not going to know your combination until you study all 18 languages. Once you get all 18 languages, you're going to come up with your own combination. It's going to be a variation of those 18 languages. Once you have the 18 languages, it condenses it all down. It breaks it all down. And I know there's not 18. I know this is only the halfway point. I know we're only at 6. I know there's another 6. I know there's going to be another 6 academic disciplines coming. I can feel them. They're sitting there. We're looking at 6 more academic disciplines. And I'm going, oh, I know it's coming. And by the time we're done, we're going to have 12. and it's just going to repeat itself. So we're only at the midway point. I am at the midway point. I am at the midway point. And this is what the midway point looks like. But it's the first milestone. No, it's not the first. It's a milestone. It's a milestone. It's knowing who you are. It really is this beautiful understanding of the self. It's the defined self. And then you go through the stage of defending who you are to make sure, like, hey, I'm at the soft clay stage. Don't touch me. And then once you harden and you refine it, now you're polishing it down to this is exactly who and what I am. And then after the refinement stage, you get to this point where it's all right, let's figure out what it is I can do. And this is the Asha journey. There is no way here any other way. It's your Asha journey. People who do not go on the Asha journey never learn more than maybe 3 of the 18 languages. People who don't go on the Asha journey never complete the first 6 stages of the 12 ethics. They never get through the 6. And this is the beautiful thing, is you can see the integration upon the integration upon the integration. So if I were to do this is what I see. This has taken me a long time to articulate this, but I can do it now. This is what I've been trying to say for a very long time. That's what we see. That is what it is. So you're doing these smaller ones while you're doing this bigger one. And in addition to that, you're also doing this. So this is how this is what I'm feeling inside of me. This is what I've been following this whole time. And when I say milestone, I mean milestone number 1. And this is the point of comprehension. And I know, so that's what it is. That is exactly what it is. It's the point of comprehension. This is the first milestone. And there's more to it. It's highly complex. And you can feel it. You can feel it absolutely. So you have the I of I, you have the you of I, you have the they of I, and then you have the all of I, which is the integration of all of it. There it is. And then you have the all of I. So that's what it would look like. But it's not even that. That's not. There's 4. There's going to be 4 here. And this is where it gets really highly complex, and it just layers upon layers upon layers. And I can feel that I am like in the first run of the I of I of whatever the fuck this is. That's really what it is I can feel myself returned to the I of I stage with this grand stage 2 milestone. Oh, good God, that is a great way of putting it. I can feel that. And yeah, that's it. So there's the 4. Yeah, there you go. So this is more accurate. So it's 4 under this 1. Yeah, it's 4 under this 1. And every one of those is the I of I. So you go through the I of I, the you of I, the they of I, the all of I over and over and over again. And it's just the stage on where you are on your spiral as you grow. It's your literal evolutional spiral. It's so beautiful. The whole thing is just so breathtaking. And everything falls into this category. All of science, all of animals, all of plants, all of biology, all of relationships, all of ideas, learning, growth. There is nothing that is exempt. It's breathtaking to see this pattern over and over again. And this is the beautiful thing is once you know this pattern, you can track your learning. You can see when you get off your learning. You can tell, oh, I'm not learning anymore. You can go, oh, I need to get back to learning. Oh, that's what's wrong with my relationship. I'm disintegrating. Oh, there's nothing wrong with the relationship. We're in the disintegration stage. Oh, my relationship began with the disintegration stage, which means it's going to completely fall apart because it was unnatural. I want to make sure that this relationship is going to be a natural relationship. So I want to make sure we go through the getting to know you stage, which is the disintegration, and then the reintegration of creating it and putting it back into Plato's point. Now you have a solid integrated unit. Now my relationship will last. And if you want it to last, you have to follow this pattern. And this is it. This is literally the eternity pattern. And anything that dies is unnatural. Literally, everything that dies is unnatural. I'm looking at an annual plant in my brain. The seed goes out, the seed hibernates. That's Plato's point. And then it creates a new flower plant. So that's actually not death. The parent dies. But see, annuals and perennials are interesting because when you look at where they seed and how they grow, it depends on the climate. An annual in one climate does not act like an annual in another zone. A perennial in one zone doesn't look like a perennial in a different zone. So an example of this is I had the yucca plant. Now the yucca plant in New York State looks like shit. It's just green leafy things. And then you get down into the South and they've got yucca plants that flower. And you're going, what the fuck? Those things flower? Like the aloe plant. The aloe plant flowers. But if you're in New York, you're never going to see this thing flower because you're not giving it the right environment for it to go through the full life cycle. The flowering is literally the integration part. Actually, it's when you, it's the integration part when you get down to Plato's point. It's the point of fertilization. So I get down to South Carolina and I see aloe all over the place and it's flowering. And I'm going, oh my God, that thing flowers? Aloe flowers? I had no idea because I'm too far north. Now, lilacs are all over the place up here. Lilacs are the zone. So we get to see the full life cycle. And what the zones really are in the ecosystem world of biology is it's literally the time period of the life zone. They need this is the length, it's the duration. They need a longer growth period to go through their full life cycle. So up in New York, we have a very short life cycle. Down south, they have a much longer life cycle. So plants that are native to the South can go through the full life cycle from beginning to end. Now you take those plants and then you bring them up here to New York. Oh, those are annuals. No, they're not. They're in the wrong zone. You put them down where they belong and they're not annuals at all. They just are not able to fulfill their entire life cycle here. Now they have their own biology. They have their own, for instance, they seed and then they die. No, they don't die. They only die here. They don't die down there. Look at azaleas. Not azaleas. I cannot remember the name of the plant. It is fuchsia. Look at fuchsia. Fuchsia are not annuals. They're annuals here in New York, but they're perennials down south because they're reaching their full life cycle and they're growing bigger and bigger every year and they expand. But when you put them here in New York, they die. So they're labeled as an annual. It's not an annual. It's a perennial in the wrong time zone or in the wrong climate zone. Like that's the kind of crazy that's going on in humans. And it's like, you know that it's not an actual annual. It's just in the wrong zone. So they're all perennials. It's not in the right zone, but we're not looking at it that way. We're looking at it as, well, this is my perspective. Well, yeah, but the plant doesn't belong here. The plant belongs down south near the equator. So when you look at the plant near the equator, I found trees, fuchsia, where they were like 60 feet wide. And I'm going, that's a fuchsia plant? It was mind blowing. And I went, okay, that's a perennial. It's matched to a different climate. So you take a perennial, you bring it to the north, and then it dies after a year, and all you've got to see that's That's human incompetence. That's what that is. That's human incompetence. That's not an annual. So when you're in New York, what they call annuals are not the same thing that they call annuals down at the equator. You're going to get an entirely different category of an annual and perennial down there because they've got a different climate zone. So it's absolutely about point of view. Instead of looking at you need to look at the entire life cycle of the plant, and that's what this is. This is the life. This is the logical code of the life cycle. It's so beautiful. So I'm just sitting on this knowledge. I'm sitting in this point where I'm going, all right, I have reached comprehension. And I'm just taking in the view today. I think that's all that this is I'm just taking in this breathtaking view of, so this is what comprehension is. And I have this desire to sit, observe, and watch. I love these moments. I love observation and watching. It's the part where it's like watching a flower bloom over and over again on repeat. And you can see everything, and this is it right here. You can see everything disintegrate that's not natural. And the stuff that's disintegrating in our culture right now is the made up shit that's not natural. So it's really nothing to be scared about, because if it falls apart, it's not natural. Only the natural is going to stay. Only the stuff built on this is going to stay. And if there's any kind of an unnatural flaw in it, if there's a flaw in it, if there's any kind of slag in it, if there's any kind of impurity, it's going to fall apart. Businesses are going to fall apart. Relationships are going to fall apart. Anything without purity inside of it's going to fall apart. Only the truth will stand. The truth is natural. The truth is literally natural code. It's pure natural code. That's truth. So this whole concept of everything disintegrating, well, yeah, it's going to disintegrate because it wasn't natural. The question is, and here's the thing, is it disintegrating because it's in the first stage of growth? Or did it disintegrate because it's not natural? And this is the beautiful thing of all of this, is now it's just sitting back going, okay, it's literally filtering time. It's time to just start sorting this out. And you don't have to do anything. It's going to do it all on its own, because time will not allow it. Mother Nature will not allow it. You built something off of an unnatural code, oh, it will disintegrate. It's called apoptosis. It will disintegrate all on its own because it's not supposed to be here. Eventually, we're going to run out of the resources to sustain what is unnatural. And once that happens, the resources that we're pumping into the unnatural are going to be freed up for the natural. The thing is, what's natural self-sustains. It's so beautiful. So you have this gorgeous self-sustaining system that requires only your own resources. And it's done. Everything else, just if it's unnatural, it will disintegrate. Nothing really needs to be done about it. The question is, are you witnessing or experiencing the disintegration stage for natural growth? Or are you trying to spare and save something that's unnatural? And once you figure that out, it's just perfect. It is perfect. It is so fucking perfect. It's beautiful. I was doing the math on this the other day, and I'm like, we are at the point of complete and total disintegration. And when this reconstruction of the integration begins again, it's going to be done. You cannot integrate with anything natural. You cannot integrate with anything natural, or I'm sorry, unnatural. It's not possible. So as we begin to integrate the next culture, the next society, the next stage, if it's not natural, it's not coming here. There's just nothing about it. And as far as the educational system goes, well, that would be King Solomon, which was pure natural, which is why it's the parent and gave birth to all of this, which is why it's this. So you're looking at King Solomon, Zoroaster, Pythagoras, those three names over and over again. This is the core of this. From King Solomon to Zarathustra to Pythagoras. And those three massive points, just that is knowledge, that is truth, that is your parent wisdom or your parent knowledge. That is truth. And as soon as you have the parent knowledge or the parent truth, you have the ability to expand on it. So the Akashic records, don't read them. Don't read them. You're cheating if you read them. You are supposed to be completing your own journey, and then you are supposed to be writing your own records. But if you're reading the Akashic records, you're cheating. You are reading somebody else's test work. You are supposed to be writing your own story. But if you are reading the Akashic records, you are reading somebody else's test exam. And you're supposed to be authoring and composing your own through the reverse engineering of this wisdom. The person who did the Akashic records did reverse engineer and participate in King Solomon's test. He literally completed the final exam. The final exam is always, all right, you're done? Now, I want you to write all of history, past and future, so that's smooth and it runs completely and it's purified. Go. That's the test. It's the only test. There's only one. When you are done, you can literally, logically see and compose all of history forward and backward into a process. It's done. And I've done mine. The Akashic records have done theirs. And they're supposed to fit and partner up beautifully. The question is, have you been reading somebody else's test assignment? Because if you have, you're cheating. You're supposed to be writing your own. Don't read the Akashic records. Do not read them. You're cheating. You're looking ahead. Those are the test answers. But it's only Akashics. I'm going to call the dude Akashic. I'm just going to call him Akashic. I know that's not his real name, but AKA SH Asha. Yeah. The Asha journey. Akashic. Yeah. Cool, huh? Wisdom. Don't read the Akashic records. You're cheating. So everybody is supposed to be writing their own version. And then you're supposed to take all 8 billion answers and put them together into one chain of, okay, this is the truth. But you're supposed to, when you do this, you'll be inventing your own science. But it's advanced. And you do not invent your own science until you get the 18 languages first. You don't invent it until you've completed all 18 languages and you go through the history exam. The history exam, the writing of your records, is your science. And it's, yeah, you're cheating. You cannot read the Akashic records before doing the full 18 languages. So you have to have at least 80% of the languages learned. It's this beautiful, it's just so beautiful. It's just so beautiful. So I don't really know what I can talk about at this point. It's just, I'm going, I'm just slack jaw, just staring at it going, this thing is so amazing. And it's just so beautiful. And I feel so good. And I'm not ready to run off yet to go see what I can do. I just want to take all this in and just look at the beauty of it. And I talked in length about this yesterday. It was a very long session where I broke down, okay, this is the part, this is where we're going with this is how we're going to build this is how we're going to go ahead with this, and it's all coming together. But this is something different. This is something so breathtaking. So breathtaking. There are 26 sounds, not sounds. There are 26 letters in the English alphabet. And some of the letters are an ah, an open mouth sound. Some of them are an sound. And some are a p sound or a b. So you have a lip sound, you have a hum sound, and you have a throat sound. And when you break these down even further, you get different kinds of sounds. And it's the accumulation and the integration of all of these. And that is reading, that is writing, that is communication. But when you study the 6 categories of the 18 disciplines, you are literally studying just the humming sound, or you are studying just the lip sound, or you are studying just the throat sound, so that you can finally integrate all of it so that you can communicate thoroughly. And that is what's going on with language on this level. Language is on a whole nother level. Language is, I'm going to tell you right now, language is my passion. Language is like, oh yeah, we're going to rip this apart. Because you have your primary language, which is your art, your story, and then your science. And that's your primary language. That's your primitive. There is nothing broken down beyond that. And that tells you where you are on the spectrum. Now, keep in mind that art is in the first foundation, story is in the next cultivation, science is in the visionary pioneer. And yeah, basically your storyteller. That's it exactly, is your storyteller. That's what you are if you're into story mindset, if you're in language. And art is all about expression and interpretation. You're trying to interpret. And then visionary is expansion. That's when you're trying to explore and you're going deeper into it. So either you're interpreting, you're interpreting, translating, you're storytelling, or you're exploring. Now, outside of that region, you're going to have the 12 perspectives. That's going to give you 12 additional languages. And then outside of those 12 languages, you're going to have additional languages. And this is where you really start to break down, to translate what it is you're trying to say. So you have to translate from art into your perspective, and we're not even at the common language yet, which would be, in my case, English. You would then translate that into metaphorical, literal, abstract. And then you would be able to, and then it reaches English. But there's these 18 languages. I'm going to be blunt. It's right after the primitive language. It's right after the primitive language. So that these 12 perspectives, you have the 18 languages right there. And that's a huge part of it. So that I speak science, but I can speak with a physicist all day. I understand exactly what they're saying. They have the same brain as me. But then you get into the 18 languages, and it's understanding how to integrate all the languages into one. Now you can start to understand the perspectives. And then from there, you're looking at, okay, are you talking metaphorical? Are you talking literal? Are you talking abstract? Which side of the mirror are you on? This is all part of it. This is absolutely all part of it. And you're just, it's how we understand. It's highly complex. It is a highly complex system. And it's absolutely in our breakdown of comprehension. And then that leads us to English. So there's a lot of surface stuff happening there's a lot happening on the surface with a language, but then there's a lot happening underneath that a lot of people are not able to, they haven't studied, they have no idea. And understanding how we communicate. So I need to just break this all down, and we're going to go over linguistics, because this is really, this is reverse engineering linguistics. It's understanding where sound comes from. It's understanding that sound, literally, you draw it out of nature. Sound is drawn out of nature. And there's a whole process here. Oh my God, I could have so much fun with linguistics. Linguistics and I are going to get really, really cozy. That's going to be probably, no, I know it. I can feel it. Linguistics is going to be like this massive, I'm just going to wallow in linguistics for a while and break it down. And I'm excited. I'm so excited. So that's probably what I'm going to be focusing a lot on, is the stages and the different levels of language and linguistics: comprehension, communication, interpretation, translation. And that's really what's going on. And when you're looking at art, what you're doing is you are refining all the different stages up to definition. An artist never makes it to definition. They only get through interpretation, translation, the drawing out from intuition. So you have the intuition, and I can see this. This is part 2. You have your intuition. So the life code that I gave you, the Plato's point, integration or disintegration, integration, Plato's point, that is actually pre-intuition. That is pre-intuition. That is how you put it into your intuition. You are integrating it into your intuition. It's integrated tuition. Hence, intuition. Integrated tuition. Hence, intuition. And that process is logic. Now, from there, you have so you get your intuition. After you have intuition, you have feeling. And then you have to translate the feeling into an image. From the image, you have to define it. This is sculpting. And then from the definition, you have to summarize it. And then you comprehend it. And then you give it name. Now, that process from intuition down to feeling, definition, that is all art. So the artist can take from intuition, feeling, image, define, and that's it. They're cut off. That's as far as they go. Definition, all the way to naming it, is storyteller and communication. And then everything from comprehension down, that's your science. So the scientist is, depending upon their art skills, really, really good at the part 1. Literally, this is the stage 1. And they're not good at stage 2. I can tell you that right now. I've run into a lot of problems with scientists because they do not understand stage 2. Stage 3, they're strong in. So they have stage 3 as their forte, stage 1. But as a result, because they don't have the skills with stage 2, they're not able to draw out and translate it properly into comprehension with stage 1. That's where you get hypothesis instead of questions. That's where you get the wrong words being used. That's where things are starting to merge together, and there's a lot of errors in math. Not a lot, but there's enough math and error in science and math because they're not sharpening their communication skills. That's very, very apparent. And when you're an artist, in most cases, the artist only focuses on just stage 1. The artist might go into some of stage 2, but without the ability to break down the comprehension of it and explain it, you'll never get it to other people. That's what that goes on, is that's the transferring on over to other people. And so they're pretty much cut off. And again, we're seeing a lot of people not understanding communication, storytelling, language. We see a lot of that happening. And then the flip side of all that with a scientist, no, I'm sorry, that's it, with a storyteller. Storytellers don't even exist anymore. The bards are gone. They've been gone since the 1600s. There's no cultivators. There's no communicators. Logic is not taught. Linguistics, abomination. And to see what they're doing, it's just gone from our culture. We don't have any. And as a result, there's no one there to translate any of this stuff. Everybody should be learning nothing but storytelling, because it's the bridge that literally gaps the two ends of the circuit. You've got the west end of a riverbank with art. You've got the east end of the riverbank with science, and there's no bridge. And that's exactly this. Now we're getting into human circuitry. Now we're getting into power economics. And this is it. This is all about reception and transmission. So the artist can't communicate with the scientist, but it's not just them. It's the uneducated can't communicate with the educated. The rich can't communicate with the poor. And the wealthy, the abundant, the billionaire, the successful, the educated, they all speak the same language. They're all on the east side of the river. And what we're seeing is this massive Western side where people without education, people with poverty, and what's going on is they don't have proper reception. That's all this is they don't have proper reception. Now, as a result, the people on the east side, the intelligent or the wealthy, they can transmit all day long. But if your reception is not working because you haven't learned, educated, studied beyond art and into storytelling, your reception is going to be terrible. Transmission occurs when you are through the second part of the storyteller stage and you're into the science stage. That's transmission. That is pure transmission. But reception is 100% art and storytelling. So a scientist is really good at standing up there and talking, but they might not be good at listening. The artist might be really good at listening, but they really have a hard time breaking down what they have to explain it properly. The storyteller bridges that gap. And this is why we need to be well-rounded, because you're either learning the receptor, you're learning the transmission side, or you're not learning how to connect. And the storyteller is the connector. They're the conduit. So you need a receptor, a transmitter, and a conduit. This is what this is all about. This is what all of this is about, is how's your reception skills? How's your conduit skills? How are your transmitter skills? Scientists have got transmitter down great, but they're not good receptors. They're not good conduits. They might be good conduits among themselves. Not really. This is why they have people skills problems. They understand. They can write it all down, but then it's wordy and it's wow, that's really good. But then you try and talk to them. And some scientists struggle with this. They're socially awkward. They're socially awkward because they lack receptor skills, because they're not artists. The artist is the receptor. They're great with receiving and bringing in, which is why you have so many artists, empaths, who are taking in way too much feeling, but they don't know how to transmit. They don't know how to communicate. They don't know how to stop receiving. So now you've got an artist who is I hate the words over emotional, but they're undisciplined. They're undisciplined with their reception. And no one is a storyteller. There are no storytellers. So no one's even understanding what's going on because there are no storytellers. Like, really, if you were to take what I really am is a storyteller. Someone who could translate all of this so that you understand, I have the reception, but I don't have the transmission. You need the reception, you need the conduit, you need the transmission. To get that, you're going to have to study all 18 languages of Mother Nature. And that's all that this comes down to, is the reception, the conduit, and the transmission. And everyone has to take turns at these three things. If you do not, you will not connect. There's no connection for you. It will not happen. This is how you connect, is your reception skills, your conduit skills, and your transmission skills. This is emotional transaction of human connections. You're using emotions as a transaction to connect with other people via human circuitry. This is power economics. So the biggest obstacle that people have when they run into this is, how am I going to learn all 18 languages? And this is a huge, we're going to call this, I want to call it a misnomer, but this is just we're going to call this a perspective gap. This is a phrase that I invented a few months ago, almost a year ago now, perspective gap, to communicate you don't fully understand the situation to understand how it's done. So a lot of people struggle with perspective gaps. They're going, oh my God, so yeah, I'm supposed to learn 18 academic disciplines, and that is not at all. You've learned without Plato's point. That's it right there. You have been learning this whole time without Plato's point. Learning with Plato's point is very different than learning without. Learning without Plato's point is very different than learning with Plato's point. Imagine, and this is it right here. You know how a sperm contains the entire DNA package condensed and simplified into a sperm of a person? That's their DNA. Plato's point is the exact same thing with knowledge. It's literally the entire summation of all of knowledge in a single point, like the word mythos. So you say the word mythos, you unwrap the word mythos, and you are now disintegrating all of it, and oh, that's it. And what you want to do is you want to take the Plato's point only of all the 18 disciplines, approximately 5,400 pages total. 5,400 pages total. You will have all of Plato's points of all 18 languages. Can you read 5,400 pages? Really simple. And there you go, 5,400 pages. I'm in the process of accumulating these books so that I can literally just give you these there's 18 books at 300 pages each. Not even. Let me think about that. I'm thinking about music theory. See, I studied music theory. I did not read a book on dance or singing. I read music theory. So actually, it was only 6 books that were 300 pages long. Also, I had to piecemeal and cherry pick it all. I don't have to do that with you. I can just hand you, this is what I did. This is in the order I did it. It will not take you long at all. It really will not take you long at all. Like all of philosophy, Sophie's World. That's all you need, is Sophie's World. That's also logic too. There isn't anything out there for linguistics. I'll have to write it. So I would have to compose the linguistics book, which I will probably do as I reverse engineer all of it and break down all of linguistics and say, okay, this is what I learned from linguistics. This is amazing shit. Holy shit, linguistics is amazing. Oh God, there's so much. Oh my God, I have so much passion for linguistics. It's crazy. I watched My Fair Lady, and then I studied Latin and ancient Greek. I studied Persian, and then I studied 3/4 of Pi, which is Proto-Indo-European languages, 3/4 of it. And I watched the evolution of what languages influenced and moved where. Language is truth. 100% of all language tells you the truth. You want to know the truth? Study the language. It tells you everything you want to know. Language doesn't lie. So that's the purity and the most beautiful thing about language, is there's no lie in language. There is no such thing as lie in language. Now, there's a lie period at the 4th century. There is a lie period at the 16th century. And there is a lie period from World War II and on. So there are 3 lie periods. There's actually another one. The other one is 5th century BCE Persia. That's another lie period from the Thebes. And that's it right there. So there's a lie period at the 5th century BCE Persia. There is a lie period at 4th century CE, and another live period at the 16th century. Those 3 points in history is where I see the most contamination and changing of words. That's where a lot of people are tampering. There's a lot of cover up. Those 3 points, there's a lot of dirt happening. There's a lot of filth happening. And I'm eyeing 1000 CE. I am eyeing a lot at 1000 CE. It's a low, it's on my radar, but it's not spiked. The spike is the 16th century and the 4th century and everything after World War II. Like fucking filth. 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 I cannot explain it enough. So when you're looking at everything prior to the 4th century is almost perfect purity. It's beautiful. There's no tampering. It's gorgeous work. It's smooth. Until you get to the Achaemenid Empire and you get to where it's 5th century BC, Achaemenid Empire, where the thieves come in and you can see where, okay, you guys are fucking around with shit because it was pure right up until this. And then this imperialization system comes in. And when that imperializing thief comes in, that's where things start to get confused, muddled. Okay, that's tampering. Now somebody's doctored the books from the victors. And basically, this is the summation of all of this. You had people with some beautiful, gorgeous, pure wisdom and knowledge. And you had some people who did not know logic try and change it, but they're so uneducated in logic, they didn't know how to do it. So they made a mess of it, and they just made a mess. So it's illogical mess with beautiful, pure, perfect, clear wisdom knowledge. Like it's night and day. You can see it. And you're like, wow, someone fucked around with a pure wisdom. So you can really just, oh, well, that's garbage. It definitely doesn't belong to these people because these guys know logic. And that's really it. When you see perfect, pure, clean logic, it's like, wow, these guys know what they're doing. You look over here and you guys are, that's just illogical mess because you don't know story ordering. And it's the science of story ordering, which is just logic. And if you're going to tamper with a story, you kind of need to know the science of story. And this is all that this comes down to, is it's all just the science of story. So then you can look through a story and go, oh, you don't know what you're doing. Oh, this is like really clean shit. Oh, this is really precise. And this is the science and the logic of story. It's the ordering of it. So when you are looking at your understanding of, oh my God, it takes so long to learn something, not if you are learning from Plato's Point. If you are learning from any other place other than Plato's Point, it's going to take you a long time to learn something because you're coming into the middle of a program and you're going to spend more time trying to make sense of what you're watching than learning it. And this is it. You are either making sense of chaos or it's being given to you in the precise order of operation so you can break it down and disintegrate it properly. So Plato's Point gives you the knowledge with the right order of operations for disintegration. So you could just disintegrate, integrate, done, understood. Very simple. Making sense of chaos is what you are usually handed everywhere. So you have to organize, categorize, label, integrate it together, find common denominators, sort it, purify it, clean it, do good checks and balances, logicize it, find the gaps, turn the lights on, look for more. It's a process. We teach you how to do both in the Asha journey. We teach you how to do both so that when you are done composing and structuring it down into Plato's Point, you can then just take Plato's Point, integrate or disintegrate, integrate. Good, I got it. So it took me 30 plus years to sort out all the chaos and the disorder. And then I was able to condense it down into Plato's Point. So I could say, here you go, here's the information. And now I'm taking that and I'm condensing it down into these storyboards. There you go. Here, just read the storyboard. So you're going to be able to read the storyboard, get the full big picture in like a fraction of a second. It's a 10-minute read, and you have the equivalent of about 30 years of knowledge in 10 minutes. Welcome to the Asha journey. This is how we learn. Everything is done with Plato's point. This is actually something that I got pissed off about, because when I figured this out, I was like, all right, great, let's just read it. So I read Sophie's World and I went, thank you, Plato's point. Sophie's World is Plato's point for philosophy. There it is. You don't need to study it for 10 fucking years. You just need to read Sophie's World and then read the great books. Sophie's World and then the great books in chronological order. And I did not read all of them. I cherry picked. I used my intuition to figure out which ones were relative. And then I was able to draw the connection and I built a tree. So Sophie's World is the Plato's point of all philosophy. You do not need any other book. Now, if you want to object, I'm going to point this out. Pythagoras and Plato and Aristotle were the masters and the fathers of philosophy. They did not teach Descartes. They did not teach Kant. They did not teach Carl Jung. They did not teach anything after Aristotle. They did not teach about the history of Plato. So what were they really teaching? What were they really teaching? This is like the biggest logical fallacy of philosophy, is if they had an entire lyceum, an entire academia, Pythagorean's order, and he was not teaching Plato. He was not teaching Socratic method. He was not teaching Descartes or Nietzsche, because they weren't alive. So what the fuck were they teaching? They were teaching Zarathustra. They were teaching Zoroastrian. So what you are really studying when you are studying philosophy is Zoroastrian. That is what you are really studying. You're only studying Zoroastrian. Zoroastrian is Solomon. You're studying Solomon's seal. So either you are studying, I'm going to call it Neanderthal philosophy or modern philosophy, Roman philosophy. There, I'll call it Roman philosophy. Or you're actually studying Zoroastrian and Solomon's seal and Pythagoras. That's the difference. And when you are done studying Zoroastrian, Solomon's seal, Pythagoras, you can reverse engineer Mother Nature. Reverse engineering your intuition. This is the tool you need for all learning. And this is the massive, massive break between Roman modern philosophy and we're going to reverse engineer intuition, because we know that integrated tuition is intuition. And then after you integrate it into your tuition, you get to, you put it into Plato's point. And then after you put it into Plato's point, you get to reverse engineer it so you can understand it and pass it on to other people. Now we got something here. Now this is what we do. So now you have comprehension. You have to do it 18 times. You have to do it 18 times. Approximately 18 times. Let me take a look for a minute here. 15 times. You have to do it at least 15 times. And when you do it 15 times, oh, you got it down. You've got it down. So the other big thing is you can read about somebody, which is just gossip. So really what you're doing in school is you're gossiping. That's all you're doing. You're gossiping. You're talking about people and you're talking about events, which are the dumbest things you could possibly talk about. That's not an education. Because you are being handed the information in a disorganized, chaotic mess, there's a lot of confusion. There should never be confusion in a proper educational environment. There should never be any confusion. If a person is confused, that's a big red flag. Like I would walk into a school and I would ask, how often are you confused? What is the ratio of confusion to comprehension? And when you study with Asha, you comprehend, because that's all we do. It's the science of comprehension. Whereas it's confusion on the other side. So Plato's point is everything. Plato's point is everything. It's the difference between a person walking up to you, handing you a single little seed going, here, this is the DNA of an entire plant, versus I'm going to hand you all of the individual components of all of the things in a disorganized basket, saying, here you go, figure it out. That's the difference. Your education up to this point has been handing you a basket filled with all of the components of all of science in a combobulated mess, going, here you go, figure it out. Whereas, are you going to play Merge Dragons? I just got a notification. Request from Elizabeth. Merge Dragons from the App Store. And I'm like, all right. And she just came in here to sign on to approve her own thing. That's how I parent. That's how I parent. And and that's the difference between being handed a seed. So that's really it, is do you want the seed or do you want the massive combobulation of, here you go, this is all the crap, figure it out yourself. Good luck with that. You're going to want the seed. You're going to want the seed. So all we do is we hand you approximately 6 seeds in the right order of operations. And then you just unravel the first seed. Now, how much you unravel it? Oh, this is the best part. It's up to you. You decide how much you want to unravel it. So the first seed is music. And music theory, physics, song, dance, music theory. Take it apart however you want. And start with music theory. And this is what you're going to do. This is it right here. I love this stuff so much. So you're handed the seed, and this is what you're doing. You have 2 goals. Tell the story. Tell its story. Tell its story. I'm going to walk you through how to tell its story. So what you're going to want to do when you tell something's story is you're going to want to find out where it all began. Where did it start? You're also going to want to know what it is. That's probably the first question. What is it? So tell its story. What is it? Where did it begin? How did it grow? And that is the question. How did it grow? There it is. That's all of it. And where is it now? That's all of it. So now when I hand you this seed and I say, here is music, tell its story. That's it. Here is music, tell its story. What is music? Where did it begin? How did it grow? And where is it now? Why do we do it? And I'm going to tell you right now. To master feeling. To master feeling. It's the first stage. That's it. There it is, right there. The rest of it is up to you. Assemble the story. Now, you can assemble a very brief story. You can dive deep into it. Definitely music theory. Music theory, and then tell its story. That's one. You're going to do this 6 times. Here is art. What is it? Where did it begin? How did it grow? Where is it now? Why are we learning it? Because we're going to master interpretation and translation. That's why. Next story is going to be story. Writing. You want the written word. What is it? Where did it begin? How did it grow? Where is it now? Why? Why? So we can translate and connect. Tell the story. The next one you're going to walk into is storytelling. And that's going to get you into connection, comprehension. What is it? Where did it begin? How did it grow? Where is it now? Why do we do it? After storytelling, you're going to get into comprehension, which is logic, linguistics. Now you're getting into comprehension. And after that, you're going to get into science. And and this is it right here. Once you understand, you're only looking for 6 stories. Now you're going to hit some of these stories and you're going to find your passion. There's going to be 3 levels. You're going to find your absolute indulgence. You are not going to get enough. You're going to find one of these subjects and you are going to devour it. You are never going to have enough. That is your calling. That's where you belong. The next thing you're going to find is you're going to get fulfilled. Your fulfilled is your second primary. So you're going to have your primary, you're going to have your secondary. And that's where you feel fulfilled. The next thing you're going to be looking at, aside from indulgence and fulfillment, is you're going to be like, we're going to call this basic. And you're looking for the combination and the ratio of these 6 stories. Are you looking to indulge? Are you looking for fulfillment? Are you looking for basic? Now, here's the beautiful thing. Music is in everything thereafter. Music is in everything thereafter. Art is in everything thereafter. And story is in everything thereafter. So you're learning the 6 elements of everything. The 6 core pieces, the 6 pillars of everything. That's really what you're doing when you're learning academic discipline, is you are studying the 6 pillars of all, and you're looking to see how they're all interacted. Now, you're going to go through, and then once you go through the 6, you're going to do it again. That's like from birth to 12 years old, you're going to go through it once. At 12, you go through it again. And that's when you really dissect it. That's where you really start to dissect it. And you walk away knowing who you are. You walk away understanding language. You have then the ability to translate, listen, hear, understand Mother Nature. You now can connect with other people. You know who you are in relativity to Mother Nature. Mythos comes together. And this is it right here. This is why we had the 9 muses. This is it right here. Some of them were redundant. I summarized them because I went, really? Why? Well, I'll know why. It's because Plato had just gotten this information from Pythagoras, who had just gotten this information from Zoroaster, and he was trying to make sense of it too. So he was relatively a new student. But after I looked over Plato's work and the 9 muses, I'm going, okay, you guys really complicated this. You needed to integrate it more. So once you integrate it, you get the 6. So it's the 6 pillars, which aligns to the 12 ethics. So once you understand these 6 pillars and what you're doing with each C, telling the story, and you're going to walk in at 12 years old with, okay, I've got the story. I have the understanding. I understand the evolution of all of this. Now, and I'm going to point out, there's no history, because your final exam, after you run through it the second time, assemble the story. You're going to assemble the story of all. Mythos. You're going to tell mythos. The Akashic records are the telling of mythos. That's what it is. And every person is going to end up with their own mythos. Now, if you've done it properly, they will fit. But if you have logical impurity, it won't fit. And then it's a whole, okay, somebody's messed something up. Now, here at the end of the day, there's, either you know how to do this or you don't. And we've got 3 sources right now. Now, I'm very jealous of Zoroaster himself, because that dude wrote Mythos and then he was able to summarize it into 2 paragraphs. And I'm going, oh, you show off, you little brat. 2 fucking paragraphs. His Akashic records are 2 paragraphs. I'm like, dude. Okay, screw it. I got it down to a literal dot, little thingy dot. So maybe I shouldn't be, okay, maybe I should not be jealous. No, that's not the right word. That is not at all the right word. envious is the right word. See, envy and jealousy are not the same thing. Jealousy means hurt about disloyalty, about no truth. Hurt about no truth. It's hurt due to lie. It's the in the moment of you're lying to me. That's it right there. Why aren't you speaking truth? That's what jealousy is. It's why aren't you speaking truth? And then envy is a whole nother thing. That is desiring what doesn't belong to you, but that's possession. That's so narcissism. That's dirty. That's gross. These are narcissist words. These are consumption words. This is slavery word. I'm starting to not understand. I don't understand it anymore. So mythos. Yeah, you have to summarize all of mythos. That's what you have to do. You have to summarize all of mythos. You have to tell your mythos. And the thing is, if you've got a story and you can't click it into everybody else's, it's wrong. Bottom line, it's wrong. Your logic is off. So if you don't know logic, you cannot write a proper mythos to plug it in. You might write something that's independent, but it's filled with contamination and it's not going to be accurate and it's nothing. So the question is, okay, do you want to write your mythos? If you want to write your mythos, is it going to be at the Asha standard of pure truth so that it fits with everybody else? Or is it going to be your own independent thing? If it's your own independent thing, have fun. Have fun. You are just not of the Asha standard. That's okay. If you are wanting it to fit with everybody else's, it's got to meet the Asha standard. It has to be pure logical truth, which means you have to become a master of logic, because now you're going to be using logic to reverse engineer your own intuition so you can integrate your tuition. So I have my mythos. The Akashic Records is somebody else's mythos. Zoroaster has his mythos. Who else wrote mythos? Let me think about this. Milton. I suspect that Milton wrote mythos. I suspect that Paradise Lost, Paradise Regained, the disintegration, the integration. No, I know it is because it followed that pattern. So Milton's Paradise Lost and Paradise Regained is his Akashic Records. See? That's his way of doing it. You're writing your own mythos. And then you got to plug it all in. It's fascinating. I'm trying to think, what other mythos would there be out there? I wonder if War and Peace is it. Because War, Peace. I wonder if Tolstoy did it. Tolstoy may have done a mythos. So that's what you're doing is we're all supposed to be writing our mythos. But not everyone's going to do it, which is okay. But then it's going to become, there's going to be a point in our history, in our future history, where this is the new education. This is going to be the new education where children come in and, all right, we are going to be teaching you how to write your mythos so you can go do whatever it is you want to do. And here's mythos, let's reverse engineer it. Now, they referred to it as Rata. No, they did not refer to it. Rata is the state of pure truth. You have to be in a state of Rata in order to write your mythos. You have to be in the state of Rata in order to write a mythos. You cannot see. Yeah, you have to be in the state of Rata. In order to write mythos. Rata was broken down into the next two pieces of this. So you have Rata, and then that breaks down into Dharma and Karma. And then from there, it breaks down into the third generation. And then you've got the 4 cardinal values. And then you've got the 12 ethics. And you can see how it pyramids out. That's the disintegration of Rata. So, which it's interesting that I have to look up Dharma and Karma because I don't remember what dharma is, but what's interesting about dharma and karma, see, for me, I see pneumo and I see logos, pneumo and logos. That's pneumo means breath, love, pneumo, and then logos means logic. And that comes down from truth. So you have truth, and then you have pneumo and logos, which is also rata. Same thing. Truth is rata. And then pneumo logos. And then from there, well, that's where I see the first triangle. Yeah, there's the first triangle. Trust, pneumo, logos. Yeah. And then the cardinal values, the 4 cardinal values. So yeah, you can start to see how it all breaks down and comes on. It's absolutely beautiful. So I'm going to go ahead and do some thinking, processing. Enjoy the view. And just sit here at this point and just take it all in before I don't know. I have to follow my intuition on this, and I don't know how long I'm going to be in this pause, observe state, but it's definitely a standstill where I'm just to take this all in and just observe, pause, reflect. That's where I'm supposed to be right now, so that's what I'm going to do. So thank you so much, and may the truth always find you.